my first overreaction. Michigan losing by 18 at Minnesota is proof positive that we were right not to put them into the same tier as Baylor and as Gonzaga in terms of being the best teams in the country and the favorites to win a national title.
I would disagree on the fact that it's one game. And not to mention, they just beat the crap out of that team by 30 the week before. So if it was a week, what is it, like almost like a week and a half? They just beat them at their gym. Now, it does show some alarming things about them on the road. It's small, but even then they've won road games too. So like we haven't had a big sample size of Michigan just losing to even figure out if this is even a problem. Like it's one game and they lost to the first time they played Minnesota like had no help for Marcus Carr. And this game, Marcus Carr passed a little bit more in the second half and guys made some shots and they extended that lead and ended up winning the game. I mean, I can't knock Michigan for them shooting poorly and having a poor shooting night on the road against who we are talking about, like Marcus Carr and his team. Marcus Carr is like a first team All-American at the point. I mean, You know what I'm saying? So I can't knock Michigan for that.
I don't mean to laugh, man, but Dick Vitale just tweeted. He just tweeted, Lorraine, give me some Pepto-Bismol. And Pepto-Bismol was in all caps.
Why? What is he doing?
I'm assuming he's live tweeting the Bucks game or something like that.
His phone just like heard him talk, and then there's like voice recognition text.
Lorraine, give me some Pepto-Bismol. Oh man!
Shout out to Dickie V for like attempting to use social media. I love it.
Oh man, I love Dickie V.
He's the man.
Look, oh man, can I go on my Dickie V rant real quick?
Go ahead. Anytime someone says anything negative about Dickie V, I always see you say something. So
I am not here. I will not allow any Dickie V slander on my Twitter timeline.
I have a funny Dickie V story. So it's like,
go ahead. Tell it. Is it funnier than him tweeting Lorraine? Give me some Pepto-Bismol.
I wouldn't say that. It's close though. But friggin', I show up to West Virginia on a visit and I'm talking to our trainer and he goes, yeah, Dick Vitale was just here last week because they played LSU. This is when they had like Taz Mitchell and friggin' everybody. They were amazing. And he's like, yeah, Dick Vitale came up to me and with the camera in my face and the microphone in his hand was just asking me questions like, how do you guys like, how do you know who's going to do this? How do you know who's going to do that? And our trainer was sitting there like looking at him. He's like, why are you asking me these questions? And he goes, you're John Beilein, right? he mistook our trainer for John Beilein. We always laugh with our trainer about it. He's like, Dickie V knew who I was. Like, basically, we love Dickie V.
Oh man,
love Vito.
Yeah, I will not tolerate any Dickie V slander ever on my timeline. Just because of everything that he does in terms, like he's raised like hundreds of millions of dollars to fight cancer and all the stuff that he stands for. Might it be time for him to be taken off of some of ESPN's biggest games? I'll just put it like this. It's very weird to me when Fran Fraschilla is not calling the biggest Big 12 game of the day, right? But like you can never say anything bad about Dickie V to me. I will not allow it. I won't allow it, Da'Sean. All right, so
he's a staple. He's a staple, man.
He's a staple. He's a legend in the game.
Exactly.
He helped make college basketball what it is. And
you can't do that.
No Dickie V slander allowed. All right, so Michigan. So for me, it kind of highlighted some of the concerns that we do have and that we have had all season long. I do think it needs to be put into the context of Eli Brooks was not playing, and Eli Brooks is like a good kind of connective piece. Like he's a shooter. He's a really good on-ball defender. He was probably the guy that would have gotten the heavy load guarding Marcus Carr.
Yeah.
But like he's not an 18-point difference, right? He's not why they got run out of the gym.
No, it has nothing to do with that.
I just think it's that like Minnesota came up with a game plan and it completely flustered and completely took Michigan out of everything they wanted to do. Hunter Dickinson played his worst game of the season by far. Like, he just kept getting double teamed. He had no idea what to do. I think he ended up with 6 turnovers. As a team, Michigan had 20 turnovers. Mike Smith finished with 10 assists, but didn't make a shot the whole game.
Exactly.
Michigan as a team could really make shots. So, like, to me, and here's the reason why I think that there's a level of difference between Michigan and Baylor and Gonzaga, is that Gonzaga played horribly at St. Mary's. Like, it was by far the worst game that they've played this season, and not even close. Like, Jalen Suggs had a good 3-minute stretch at the start of the second half, and beyond that, like, he looked clueless. He looked absolutely clueless out there for most of the game. They weren't really making all that many shots. Corey Kispert was fine. Andrew Nemhard was okay. Drew Timme could never really assert himself, and they couldn't really get the ball to him all that much. St. Mary's completely dominated the pace of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And Gonzaga still won by 14. They would have covered if Umar Ballo had finished dunk at the end of the game, like on the last possession. So Baylor, right? They didn't play all that well. Jared Butler didn't score until there were 5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
Texas Tech really got it going offensively in the second half, and Baylor still won by 8 on the road at Texas Tech in Lubbock, where there were probably like 4,000 fans in that arena because it was kind of loud.
Packed.
So
it was packed.
So those two teams played poorly and still won on the road against some of their toughest competition in conference play. Michigan on the road played bad against there's no slight on Minnesota, but probably like not a top 5 team in the Big Ten, and got run out of the gym by 18. Now, does that say a little bit about the difference between the Big Ten and the WCC? Sure, of course, obviously. That's not the point that I'm trying to make. But it does kind of show you that the floor for what these other two teams are is much, much higher than the floor for what this Michigan team is when things go bad for them.
And that's why I guess I could say I disagree in that scenario, because once again, you brought the point up toward the end of that. Yes, the competition in the Big 12 and the Big 10 is completely different from the competition in the WCC. And even though Gonzaga played as bad as you said they did, they still, as far as talent-wise, as far as coaching-wise, they have everything, and they still won the game by 14 points. So Gonzaga is in a place of their own. So I'm going to say Gonzaga to the left in there. And you talk about Baylor and Texas Tech, also both ranked teams similar to Michigan and Minnesota. But like that first half, honestly, for the game, Texas Tech, they had a better second half, but it was just an ugly basketball game. They didn't shoot the ball well. The only reason they stayed in the game is because they offensive rebounded the ball well. They played pretty solid defense. They were scrappy, and they and obviously Butler didn't shoot the ball really well. They didn't really get much offense other than Davion Mitchell and obviously Flagler and Maceo Teague play well. It was just an ugly game. So, and it had nothing to do with how well Texas Tech played. I kind of feel like it was more or less like Baylor didn't make many shots, and the game was close because of that. I mean, Baylor did what they were supposed to do defensively. Texas Tech only scored 60 points. So they did what Baylor normally does. They just didn't score the ball. So I look at Michigan, them losing this game to a Minnesota team they just played a week before. And if you notice, it's not easy to beat a team 2 times or 3 times in the same year, especially within a week, a week turnaround. They probably watched this game after they got destroyed at their gym. They probably watched this game, even though they had other games to prep for. They probably watched this game over and over 2 days before this game played. Mm-hmm. They knew exactly what Michigan was going to do. It was going to be a quick turnaround, and they did what they were supposed to do. They shot the ball great. Michigan did not. As opposed to the first game, Hunter Dickinson didn't have a great game. The first game, he had 30 almost. At the end of the day, it's nothing to really worry about, I feel, because it's against a team that's on the up as far as Minnesota is. Michigan is still a team I feel like that's on the up, and it's the Big Ten Conference. They're going to run into teams like this all the time, and they're going to have road games as well. And I don't foresee them losing like this when they lose. When they lose or when they play any other team in the Big Ten. I just can't foresee that happening. Like as
I
far
mean,
as how talented they are.
It definitely was a wake up call for him, right? Like,
Oh yeah, it was a smack in the mouth, and it's the first one of the year. I mean, it happens.
Sometimes, and you might, I mean, you know this, man. Sometimes you need to get your teeth kicked in once in a while. Like, so I agree with you on all of that, and I do think that like Michigan, I'm not saying like they're not a top 10 team. I'm not saying that they can't win the Big Ten. I think that there's a certain tier, right? And I would put Baylor and Gonzaga in a tier of their own. And then after that is a conversation. But for me, the reason why I would not have Michigan there is it's not because they lost the game. It's not because it's not because I just saw them lose by 18. It's not because Minnesota's not a good team. It's twofold. One, Michigan kind of like runs their offense through a low post 5. And that like Hunter Dickinson is awesome. But there are some limitations that can happen, and Minnesota proved what those are. Like if you throw a double team at him, then he doesn't really know what to do. Sure. So it'll be very interesting to see if now that that's on film and teams have seen that, if that's something that they're going to do over and over and over again. And if that kind of limits what Hunter Dickinson can be as an offensive weapon, it's a little bit problematic. The other part of it is the two best backcourts in the country are Gonzaga's and Baylor's, and I don't think that it's close at all. Gonzaga has the potential number 1 pick, Andrew Nembhard, who started at Florida, and Joel Ayayi, who is going to probably end up playing in the NBA. I'm convinced of it at this point. Like he's so good. While Baylor has Jared Butler, first-team All-American, Davion Mitchell, who's going to end up playing, like he'll probably be a second-round pick. Adam Flagler, who has come out of nowhere to be one of the best shooters that you'll find. Maceo Teague, who is just like an all-around, just solid 2-guard in college basketball. Like I love that dude.
He'll start anywhere else. He could start in anyone else's team.
Yeah, I love his like his like mid-range off the glass game.
Yeah.
Like and like he's got the ugliest jumper I've ever seen in my life. Like there's the biggest hitch I've ever seen in a shooting stroke. Maceo Teague has. And he still makes the shots, man. Like I love that dude's game. And yeah, like Matthew Myers, just a 6'9" chucker. Like they have great guards.
Yeah, they do.
Gonzaga has great guards. And Michigan they got good guards. Eli Brooks is a good piece. Mike Smith is, for the most part, been really, really, really good this year. But there's a difference between what those other guys got and what Michigan's got. And for me, like college basketball is a guards game, man. You got to have great guards if you're going to be able to go win in March. So that's what kind of sets them apart for me. So let me ask you this. I think we both agree that like Gonzaga and Baylor are you with me that they are the clear-cut top 2? Would you put anyone else on like their tier?
No, it's them for now. It's them. I mean, we haven't seen them, but the thing about Baylor that's worrying me is that they're having issues scoring. But besides that, I mean, if they can keep people from scoring, then they'll be okay.
Yeah, so, like we kind of knew that was going to end up coming, right? Like, there's no way Davion Mitchell was going to shoot 60% from 3 for the whole season.
Yeah, true.
All right, so for me, in that next tier of teams, this is who I would have. I'd put Iowa there. I'd put Villanova there. I'd put Michigan there. This isn't in the order. I'm just
thinking of some teams. Yeah.
I'd put Tennessee there, and I'd put Texas there, and I think that is it in terms of who I would have in that next tier. Would you add anybody else?
I'd probably take Tennessee out and put Kansas there, and like I would say Kansas. I was say Illinois before, but it's tough right now for them. I still think talent-wise, and the way the team is situated, they can be in that tier as well. It's just that they keep getting housed and keep losing games. And then it doesn't seem like guys are making too many adjustments. Well, I want to say they're not making too many adjustments. That's a falsehood. But I would say that they keep finding ways to lose games.
Mm-hmm.
So I would put Tennessee is good, man. They're good defensively. Like they're not Baylor, but they're versatile. They're almost as versatile. They have a great rim protector in Eves. It's just I feel like Baylor's offense is way better than Tennessee's offense.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the thing. It's just like wow, like and that's the way Tennessee's offense. I mean, the way Baylor's offenses look. it still looks more consistent than Tennessee's. Like they got Baylor has guys that can create off the dribble, and other teams do. And you just like you said, this is a guards game in college, for especially now. And I don't see their guards doing much creating to like any playmaking or just to give the team that kind of like relax. We'll take care. Like, there's no settling. Like they just swing the ball around till they find a shot, or someone takes a dribble, picks it up, pump fake, side step, shoot a like mid-range, like leaner. It's not the best and not the most creative offense.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right on that. But that's why I have them in that next tier. Like Iowa, we're always going to have questions about what Iowa is defensively. Yeah, right. Sure. I have, like I just mentioned with Michigan, I have questions about a team that runs so much offense through the 5 that doesn't have great guards. Like we have questions with Tennessee, like what happens if you get into a game where someone can hold them down and not allow them to create. If they can't score off their sets and they can't score off the transition, who's going to make a play? Is Villanova ever going to play another game?
Play basketball game, yeah, sure.
And then Texas, I mean, look, I love Shaka. I can't fully buy into Shaka as it is.